For analysis of the 911 call and this case, I want to bring in former FBI profiler Mary Ellen O'Toole. Mary Ellen, this 911 call fills in part of the story that we didn't know before. What does hearing that Laundrie allegedly slapped Petito tell you about this case?
It's insight into their relationship, and that will become especially important if they have the opportunity to interview Brian. So it suggests that there were issues between the two of them, those elevated to physical violence, and then in the tape of Gabby and how she appeared very emotionally upset outside the van, that also becomes important in case there are statements made that she was never upset, she was always fine, she never got fearful or concerned. This videotape will explain that that's just simply not true, and it certainly falls into what they used for the affidavit for the search warrant on September the 15th, that there was concern about her state of anxiety, and that actually led to their being able to obtain the warrant to get some of the electronic equipment that they did.
So what can you glean from the execution of the search warrant at the Laundrie's house yesterday? And what do you think that they're looking for in that house? Is it all technology and computers and cell phones or something else?
The one on September the 15th looked like it was mostly the technology. But the one yesterday that was served by the FBI, it seemed to be more extensive, particularly because they also took the vehicle, the Mustang. At this point, we're not sure what was precisely in that warrant, but my sense is that they're looking for things beyond technology, again, because the police department already obtained most of that on the 15th.
We're also learning more now about the timeline of Gabby Petito's disappearance. Search warrant paperwork says that a text message sent from her phone on August 27th asks her mom to help Stan, who's her grandfather. So Petito's mother thought that text message was strange because Petito doesn't normally refer to him by his first name. In your experience, is it likely that someone else sent that text message? How big of a clue is that?
Well, it's certainly an indication, particularly since the comment came from her mother, that the use of the name Stan is not consistent with how Gabby would write about her grandfather. So that would certainly suggest that there's a likelihood that someone else wrote that text and sent it, thinking that they could dupe the parents into believing that that was actually Abby.
Let's go back to Laundrie's return to Florida on September 1st without Petito. Her family reported her missing 10 days later. It wasn't her family it wasn't her fiancé rather, who reported her missing. As a profiler, what does that behavior tell you about this case?
The fact that Laundrie came back to the home that they both shared without Abby is a huge red flag. So there should have been many questions that were asked. Where is she? What happened? But reports of the neighbors say that he was out riding his bicycle with his mother. So those are opposite ends of the continuum, suggesting that he seemed okay. He wasn't under a lot of stress, at least visible. And they were acting business as usual. And it's particularly interesting that there was no contact made with Gabby's family about, I'm back, but she isn't. Again, another red flag to suggest that Brian is distancing himself from all of this, but because of his lack of experience in these kinds of cases, he's never been the focus of a major manhunt before that's on the front page of all the papers. If he is responsible for this, he's not demonstrating any kind of level of sophistication in how he's managing his behavior. His planning seems to be breaking down. His thinking seems to be breaking down. And if he's still alive, that type of deterioration in making decisions and good judgment, even his health, will continue to break down under the pressure.
Before we let you go, I want to ask you one more question about that body camera footage that we saw a couple of minutes ago when the two of them were pulled over in Utah. Did you notice anything about how they were acting during that stop when they were being questioned by police. Perhaps something that you would have said, that looks like domestic violence to me. That looks like a situation where they should be separated for a longer period of time. What could you read into that based on what you saw?
The two behaviors were strikingly different. Gabby seemed to be very anxious and stressed. Brian did not. Brian did show the officers that he had some injuries. They didn't look that closely at Gabby, but that certainly would suggest, along with the 911 call, which supported this, that there was not only stress between the two, but that stress had elevated to a physical assault. But the officer in the video did explain that they did have enough to actually file, if they wanted to, a domestic abuse crime, but they did not. But to me, they did seem to recognize, excuse me, that there were problems between the two, which actually escalated the violence.
And we should mention that they did separate the two of them. One slept in the van that night, one slept in a nearby hotel. Mary Ellen O'Toole, thank you for your analysis.
Thank you.
And Jerika Duncan was at the Laundrie's home yesterday as the FBI searched it. We'll speak with her about what she's learned about this case around 7:38 Eastern.